Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and we love movies so much on this show that it is literally in our show title. So if you love movies and you love gay bears in your life, then you've come to the right place, hopefully. On this show, we embrace our husky, hairy, huggable homo-ness and bring some movie goodness, hopefully, to you with regularity. Although last week, we took a week off, unfortunately, due to some craziness that happened for us. But we are back this week. And guys, it feels good to be back with you, Jim Pugliafico. Welcome to the show. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Hello. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Just because we were off last week just means we have that much more to talk about this week.
That's right. We've got a big show this week. That's right. We'll tell you a little bit more about what we're doing here in just a second. But we got to introduce our third, someone we love very dearly, Will Lindis. Hello. How's it going?
Hey, movie fans, bear fans, movie bear fans. Glad to be with you and Brad and Jim. I know we had to take last week off for circumstances, but I missed you guys. It's really good to see you again.
Yeah.
Missed you too. We're kind of dancing around it. My sister was in the hospital and it was pretty bad, but she's all good now. Doing really well. I'm back in Tucson. I was in bumfuck Michigan and Indiana for a week.
Wait, you were where?
Bumfuck Michigan and Indiana.
Hold on, I need to check my Google Maps because while I've not been to bumfuck,
you might want to visit.
I don't know. I mean, if you like to fuck bums or grow crops.
Well, I mean, are we talking about bums as in like hobos, transients, or are we talking about like bum is another word for like rump butt, right? So I mean, that works.
I'm just saying, there's lots of hot bubbas out there.
Okay.
So yeah,
all right.
That's the kind of bumfuck I'm talking about. I mean, if you like hobos too, beards, bear community, maybe, but
no. No matter what you've seen on my Tumblr feed, that's not my scene.
Oh, goodness. Well, we are so jazzed to be back this week. As Jim alluded, we do have a big show. Since we're off last week, we've got 2 movies coming at you on this show. We're going to be reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp. And, the bonus, guys, to not reviewing it last week means a whole lot more people had a chance to see it ahead of the show. So we've already got a bunch of people jumping on this show with us. So maybe that's a good thing that we waited a week. We're also going to be reviewing Skyscraper, the new film starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Starring Dwayne Johnson. I know you're trying to get away from the Rock moniker, but you will always be the Rock in my heart. So
it's going to be tough for him to shake.
It's a thing
to shake that name. We've always known him as the Rock, and we're always going to call him the Rock. Probably. I can't see us just going to Dwayne Johnson and leaving the Rock out.
I mean, it's not the worst problem to have. Just like, oh man, am I going to be known by my one of the highest, if not the highest paid in Hollywood, movie personas, or my highest paid in wrestling personas? Oh, gee, which one will they call me by? The guy's making bank no matter what we call him.
It's a rough problem to have. You know what I mean? So. Oh, goodness. Well, hey, we've got some folks in the live chat saying hello. Bobby Miller says, welcome back, guys. Bobby, welcome back yourself. Glad to have you with us. And Jordan Riley. Hey, Jordan. He says, hey, sexy bears. Good to see you, Jordan. It's been a hot minute, so we're glad to have you guys with us. For those of you who are listening through the magic of digital tape delay, you can't be here on the live show with us. We love you too. We don't want you to feel left out, even though, you're not here when we're recording the show. Maybe you're listening 2 days from now. Maybe you're listening 2 years from now. Just know we are beaming love to you over the, not radio waves, because we're not on radio. We're not one of those podcasts. But whatever medium you're accessing the show through also carries our love. Guys, we got a big show. Are we ready to just dive on in and get this mother started?
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, I'm excited. We got 2 big movies to talk about this week.
Indeed. Before we do that, though, Jordan Riley in the chat asks a question. He says, "Is that a cape on that cup?" And I think he's talking about the cup behind me.
Mm-hmm. That's
Let me grab it. Jordan, it is a cape. This is my Superman pin cup. And there you go. You can see the cape billow in the wind.
And that cup holder or that pin holder is so cool that we're not even going to go all Edna mode on you. No capes.
No capes, no darling. Capes. No capes, darling.
They're just not practical.
You do a pretty good
begs to fucking differ.
well, here's the thing. Superman can survive going through a jet turbine and then land the plane. So Superman gets to keep his cape.
But just Superman.
Only Superman. So Batman, fuck you. But
you heard it here first.
Well, then let me just say this. We're going to be talking Ant-Man and the Wasp, as well as Skyscraper. Not Sky something else.
Skyrim Scraper.
Skyrim Scraper?
My brain went to Skyrim, guys.
You just got done playing Skyrim. That's why.
I did. Now that I'm back, I was gone for a week. So I'm like, I got to do all the things I haven't been able to do while I was gone. Yeah. Skyrim Scraper. Anyway, we're going to talk about both films, spoiler-free for a little while. In case you haven't seen them, we'll give you our initial impressions. If you value our opinions, maybe you want to stay for that part of the show, please feel free. And then we'll give you a warning before we open up the can of spoilers. If you're listening via digital tape delay, you can use the time index that Jim lovingly creates for you every week to skip ahead through the different sections as needed. If you're watching live, well, if you haven't seen the films yet, feel free to step away as needed. But here we go. We are opening this up, and we are starting with Ant-Man and the Wasp. Will, you're kind of the most comic booky of the three of us, so it kind of makes sense that maybe you kick us off for this one. Give us the basic premise, keeping in mind most people who are going to see this movie probably already have. And your thoughts. Was this worth seeing in theaters? It's hanging around for a while. There's plenty of opportunities. Wait for rental, skip it. Where do you come down?
Yeah, absolutely. So here we are with Ant-Man and the Wasp. Basic premise is after the events of Civil War, you know, that big event where we had Captain America versus Iron Man and all of the heroes taking sides. After that, Scott Lang, a.k.a. the Ant-Man, who found himself siding with Cap in that, he now finds himself under house arrest, trying to stay on the right side of the law, just so that he can stay out of prison and so that he can try to maintain a relationship with his daughter. However, that stay soon is disrupted by Dr. Hank Pym and Hope Van Dyne, a.k.a. the Wasp, who drag him along on a new mission with some very, very personal stakes. So Ant-Man and the Wasp, I liked it. I think there's a few things that kind of work in this movie's favor. This is the first of the Marvel movies after Infinity War, which had really, really, really big stakes and a lot of major things going on. So it was nice to have a film that was sort of a cool down, a breather, a film that kind of lets you like release some of the tension and see some other things that are happening in this universe. I think the comedy, this is a comedy film, as you know, as much as like Guardians of the Galaxy or some of the, or maybe Spider-Man were. And I think the comedy for the most part works here. I think the action set pieces, especially whenever they play with scale, like things getting big, things getting small, I think those are real gems. I love the fights. I love some of the big stuff that happens. And I love, this is the Paul Rudd show. Like he is, like I struggle to think of a more charismatic human being than Paul Rudd, and you see that in every role that he does. But you also see it very much here. I think he was born to play this particular role, and I really like Evangeline Lilly in the Wasp role. Now, it's not a perfect film. There are some drawbacks. I think that some of the support characters had a little too much, too little business. Like I think there were a couple of characters who needed a little bit more to do. And I think they, the one that needed less to do, I would say, I don't know if this is the one that you're thinking, but Michael Pena needed like way less to do in this one. I like Michael Pena, but I didn't care for him here.
I don't want to rain on Paradeville, but we'll talk about which one I thought.
We'll get to it in a sec. But like Michael Pena, I loved him in the first one. And I felt like they needed to include him here because he worked in the first one, and I don't think he worked as well here. The same with T.I. and I forget the other actor's name. That whole group of like, Scott Lang's crew. Walton Goggins is really fucking good in this. I think the character needed a little bit more, but like Walton Goggins was such a delight to see on the screen. I saw this both in 2D and in 3D, and the 3D actually kind of works.
So
and I
5D altogether?
I saw it in 5 dimensions. The 3D works. The 3D works. And I'm usually someone who's hesitant to recommend 3D. And I'm still hesitant to recommend 3D because it adds a cost to something that's perfectly fine without it. But you could do worse in terms of 3D. Yeah, this is a perfectly good movie. It's not a great superhero movie, but it's good. I enjoyed it. I saw it twice. I'd see it a third time. It was good.
So good. You saw it twice, maybe even a third time.
Twice at 5Ds.
Well, we're all about the D on this show, so let's get as many of them as we can, I suppose. After a week and a half in farm country, I'm all about the D too, Will, so no worries. I understand. Jim, how about you on this one? How did you come down?
Yeah, I'm not usually a fan of some of the Marvel movies, but this one I rather enjoyed all the way through. And I think I know the reason for that. I mean, first of all, I think it's a pretty fun movie, right? This movie focuses on the fun. This is not wrapped up in very much at all of the mythology of Marvel superheroes. It's as much as a kind of what I consider to be a standalone in the MCU as maybe something like Guardians of the Galaxy. It kind of has its own little world going on within the big MCU. And I like that. It was a breath of fresh air for me after all of the heavy mythology of like Infinity War this year, which we got, which, wasn't a bad movie. It's just, it gets a little bit daunting for me to kind of follow all that and be wrapped up in every character's stakes. This movie made it fun. It was, as you said, with the growing and the shrinking and everything big and large, and sometimes in the same time in the same scene. I thought it was it just made it a lot of fun. Paul Rudd, of course, is great as the Ant-Man, kind of like the reluctant superhero almost, to a little bit of a degree. But I think Evangeline Lilly in this movie was just as much in the forefront as Ant-Man was. I won't say it was more about the Wasp, although the emotional stakes of the movie were squarely behind her character. Her and the Hank Pym character, Michael Douglas, who was also great, by the way. I kind of want to go the opposite way of you, Will, and say I kind of like Michael Pena's character. Yeah, he might be a little annoying. I thought he had the funniest scene in the whole movie, first of all. And secondly, I thought they could have totally done away with the Walton Goggins character and plot line, and the movie would have been fine. I think this movie did a lot of things very well. This was one of the things I don't think it did well. It tried to introduce almost like another villain, if you will. But I won't go too very, very far into that.
It's like the Battle of Five Armies, just too many things happening.
Yeah. Marvel loves to do that. But yeah, this is one I really enjoyed. And again, it's like I said, it feels like a standalone. It's something you can enjoy on its own. Get into the characters. Does not take itself too seriously. And this is a lot of fun at the movies, and it's doing very well. But we'll talk about. We have some spoilers to talk about for sure. It was fun. Let's just say it was mostly fun. How about that?
That works.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, for me, I was really confused because I thought this was going to be like Ant-Man Goes to Church. I wanted, I guess, to see a whole lot more like Anglo-Saxon Protestants, but we didn't really get that, I guess. I thought he was going to like battle organized religion.
Oh, white Anglo. Yeah,
yeah. But
Okay.
it totally subverted my expectation. So, you know, I was fine with that, actually. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, I didn't think that. But I got to tell you, I love Evangeline Lilly. I have been a fan of Lost for a very long time, and Kate was one of my favorite characters on that show. I wonder if they'd ever do like a reunion someday. That'd be hard to do, given how that show ended. But really, really great to see her sort of take equal footing center stage in this film, right up there with Paul Rudd, who I don't know if this is a spoiler, but I mean, I think Paul Rudd is super charming and super hot. And we get at least one shirtless scene of Paul Rudd in every movie he's in. And Ant-Man and the Wasp did not disappoint. So I was very happy for that. But this was a fun movie. I agree. But I got to tell you, this felt like the first movie all over again to me. Like, I know there's some differences. The plot's a little bit different. You know, it sets it up in the trailer. They're going to try and get her mom back. And, you know, but I don't know. I felt like there was a lot of rehash in this movie. And, you know, as a sequel, you kind of expect that, I guess, to some degree. But I don't know. I guess I just thought it might be a little bit different, especially given, you know, the fallout with Captain America 3, Civil War. Obviously, it influences this film. And this takes place before Avengers Infinity War Part 1.
Or parallel with, maybe?
Maybe it's parallel. Although if it's parallel, you'd think like we'd hear news reports of, you know, true, certain things happening. So, you know, it was before. Yeah. So I think it takes place in between the two films, and then, you know, we'll talk about other stuff. But so it's kind of in this weird like plot space. And I think that's a little bit problematic for this film, because coming off of the first movie, which was really, really great. I mean, I totally loved it. It's like, how much room does this movie have to run within the greater Marvel verse, I guess, given where it's situated between the two movies. It's almost like there's a very small window that it can play with plot-wise in terms of the overarching stuff that's going on. So I guess it's good that Ant-Man and the Wasp can become very small, because I feel like they're kind of limited to that small window. So I know that's not a super popular opinion. Everyone I know that's seen the movie is like, oh my God, it's the best thing ever. It's so good. I liked it a lot. It was fun, but I can't say that it really, I don't know, did anything super satisfying for me. But I did love seeing Michael Douglas back. I got to tell you, I've loved that man for as long as I've been alive. It's always so good to see him show up in things. His just dry, wry sense of humor. Typically comedies don't do much for me, but I don't know. There's something about his delivery that I enjoy. As much as I love Michael Pena, I'm kind of right there with you. A little of him goes a long way. And I felt like here it was too much Michael Pena for me. Loved seeing Lawrence Fishburne, though. Great to have him back for something. But yeah, I mean, it was okay. If you liked the first movie, I'm sure you'll like the second one. See it in theaters if you can. Get those nice big visuals. Really great sound, but pretty solid rental too. If you miss it, you probably only have to wait a month, and it's going to be out on Blu-ray, given how quickly things happen these days. So yeah, that's kind of where I fall. And the chat is going crazy. Oh my gosh, I just looked at it. It's like
Steve's talking about there was a hot chub guy who was one of the sidekicks for the Sonny Birch character, the Walter Goggins character. I mean, I don't even know if he said anything in the movie, but I think he was there. I mean, it's interesting when I think I do remember like a hot chubby guy in the movie, but he's not that memorable. Like, I'd have to go back and see the movie and like pick him out.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by other talk in the chat about a different film project from a while ago. That was being discussed. But
yeah, that's probably one we won't review on this episode. But you know, maybe.
Well, I don't know. Is there anything else non-spoilery that we want to talk about before we just rip the Band-Aid off and get to it?
Oh, I didn't mention it before, but while I don't think that the character 100% worked, I absolutely loved seeing Randall Park in this, and just seeing how much he's just one of those guys that always brings joy to a role. He was the one that played Shield agent or FBI agent, I guess.
Yeah.
Wu, the one that like came at the a few times to check in on.
The one that always showed up a little too late.
Yeah.
Dude, that actor, like, every time he's in something, I find myself going like, "Oh shit, that's Randall Park." Like he's the dude from Fresh Off the Boat. He's been in a few different things, but I just love him, and I loved seeing him here.
He's definitely a delight. It's always good to see him show up, and I think he played off of Paul Rudd really well here. Their shtick kind of worked well in the banter.
Proposing a new film project for you, okay? It's just we follow Paul Rudd and Randall Park, like actually those two guys around, and just film their conversations and their antics, because I want that live streamed. Like, you know, forget Big Brother, forget any of those types of things. Like that's what I want to be able to watch on demand, because that's got to be great.
Maybe. Hey, Paul Rudd's going to be in another movie coming up, a comedy where he plays a gay dad.
What?
I don't know if I'm gonna like it. I didn't say it was going to be a good movie. I just said it was a movie. It's called Ideal Home or something like that is the name of the movie.
I mean, I just want a gay sex scene with Paul Rudd. But okay, not to take us too far afield, but like, why aren't they casting an actual gay man to play a gay dad in that film? I feel
the poster, it shows, apparently it's Paul Rudd and Steve Coogan, and the tagline is "These dads suck." So I don't know that this
pissed me off.
Like, that's not going to handle.
Did that piss you off like it pissed me off?
It's one of those things where it's just like, oh, neat, like a film about like these, you know, like these guys adopting a child. Like, let's find the humor and the heart, and that these dads suck. Oh, that's the type of movie we're getting. Let me
cheap gay joke coming up.
Yeah, let me just lower my expectations for this one.
But like, where's the outrage? You know,
nowhere. Nowhere. Maybe I'm on Outrage Island there. So.
I think that we may be on different sides of a different conversation for another day.
In any event, guys, let's dive into some spoilers. It's been an extra week. I think most people have probably seen this movie if they're going to. So let's shift that conversation. If you've not yet seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, feel free to step away for 10 minutes and then come on back and join us for Skyscraper. But spoilers are indeed officially fair game. Where do you guys want to start?
I think the biggest crime of this movie, the thing that, if I could change one thing, is I would find some time to reallocate some screen time. And I think it would be, like, honestly, it would be cutting Michael Pena stuff, and it would be cutting a lot of the Sonny Birch, Walton Goggins stuff, to give more things for Michelle Pfeiffer to do.
Yes.
Because she had so few lines, but I felt like I had a good... Like I was like, I really like this character who I'm only getting to see for like this little bit here. Like I wanted to see so much more of her because I was liking what I was seeing, and she's super talented.
She had more the character spoke more through Paul Rudd than she did out of her own fucking mouth.
Which, by the way, that scene, I really, really liked that. And I also liked that it was tastefully done. There was like, it's hard to do a woman inside of a man's body joke without it getting into like kind of homophobic or transphobic places. And they didn't, like, when they noticed they were like holding hands or anything like that, they didn't go, ew, or like there was none of that. It was just like, it was actually kind of a touching scene. So they navigated something that could have been a minefield, and they actually made it both funny and sweet.
We needed more Michelle Pfeiffer versus the tardigrades, because that would have been awesome. Like, we needed something like that. Anyway, yes, I love Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, I think the last thing we saw her in was it the oh God, now I'm forgetting the name of the movie. With Javier Bardem.
Oh, she was in Mother.
Mother,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's great in this. I mean, she's Janet Van Dyke, who is the Wasp's mom, basically, in the movie. Hope Van Dyne's movie, mother in the movie. And of course they go in. The whole movie is about their quest to go into the, what's it called? Into the Shimmer. What is it called?
The quantum realm.
The quantum realm to rescue her because she's trapped in there, right? So they come up with this concoction, cockamamie idea through all this fake tech to go in and rescue her. And of course they're successful. And that's when we finally get to Michelle Pfeiffer. But it's not till, 85% of the movie is done, right? Where they get her. And I also kind of liked a little bit about the character that was played by Hannah John Kamen. Is that her name? Hannah John Kamen. She played Ava, the ghost character. And I thought she was pretty good. She was really kind of the villain of the movie, but the villain had kind of emotional stakes also, I guess, because she was damaged and she was trying to fix herself.
She's really good. She's really good at looking surprised at her arms.
Yeah, and she phases in and out, and because her character's ghost. But I kind of liked what they did with her character. And the relationship that she had with Lawrence Fishburne was good too. So yeah, I liked all that, and that's why I said we could have done without the other like side villain stuff that was going on outside. I do want to mention that Michael Pena scene where they and I think they had one like this in the first movie, if I remember right.
Where he does the dub over,
where he kind of like tells a story, but they show it in flashback with all the characters kind of mouthing the words, but it's coming out as his voice. Right. I thought that was for me, that was the hardest laugh in the movie.
That was really good.
I thought it was well done. So yeah, a little bit of him goes a long way, but I love that scene.
It's like you probably could have just gotten that scene in this. There's like these long kind of like drawn on jokes about like, is it truth serum? Is it not? Now it's just like, I just wanted to scream at the screen, just like, no one fucking cares if it's truth serum or not. The joke's dead. And so that was like, Michael Pena really works when he gets a chance to he's really good at like kind of doing those run his mouth type scenes. Like he's a good talker, but he got injected, I think, too much into the action and he didn't have enough of being like Scott's like confidant and ally type thing. So he was there for story beats that he didn't really have as much of a personal connection to outside of like a will they or will they not lose the business thing. Like they just could have reworked that and tightened up a few things.
So there's an interesting conversation going on in the chat right now. Steve asks, not to be picky, but what did she eat in the quantum realm? Good question. Maybe she hunted tardigrades. But here's the thing. If she can
larva.
If she can like heal people with her quantum powers, I'm betting she could somehow sustain herself without having to eat. But we also saw like quantum grasses and stuff. So who knows? Jim, you actually asked in the chat if she aged in the quantum realm. Yes. So we saw at the beginning of the movie, there's a flashback, which, by the way, the computer work they did to make Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer look like 80s versions of themselves was fucking amazing. Like, whatever technology they're using, I want to see all my favorite actors who are like over 75 now, like in a movie where they're aged back down to their 80s selves.
Hell, I want that Snapchat filter for myself.
That was so well done. But yeah, so Jim, she looks like she's in her 30s or something in the flashback. And then we see her go into the quantum realm and get trapped. But when she comes out, she's got white hair and all her wrinkles.
Like
and
25, 30 years later, whatever.
Yeah, right, exactly. So she was able to age and eat in there. So
or she at least aged. Like we did see, like, her hair was silvery there at the end. She definitely was showing her age. But in terms of the eating, or did she not? Like, I think what's cool about that, and also like maybe another like little flaw to the movie, like I think they could have given us a little bit more there at the end. It's very possible that, you know, she didn't need to. Like they, as we saw in the stinger, you know, there's like healing energy inside of the quantum realm, like can be used for like, you know, for, you know, high science fiction type stuff. So it's very possible that she was able to just sustain there. You know, I don't think that she necessarily had to go hunting like quantum pigs to like go eat on, you know, to like, you know, to kill and eat on the side. Like, I think that, you know, she's probably being sustained by just all of the like energies that were there, which is kind of cool because it makes this character who has these like incredible potential for power, right? Like, you know, she can she affected something on the molecular level outside of like on Earth when she healed Ghost up there at the end. Like, I kind of want to see the next movie just be called Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantum or whatever she's going to be, and focus a lot more on her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to talk about stingers.
Yes. So Wasp had 2. She has 1 on each wrist, and she would use her little blast stingers to. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, not exactly, but I'm glad you brought that up. No, yeah, we're talking about stingers at the end of the movie. There were 2, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember. One of them really made a huge impression, right? One of them was a big, oh my God moment of the movie. Like, you have a movie that's pretty much your standard kind of action movie. Everybody, you know, the good guys win. It's pretty lighthearted kind of stuff, even though the stakes are emotional between Hope and her mom and dad and stuff like that. And then we get to the end, and then we have a stinger, a mid-credit stinger, right? Where we flash to a scene where Hank and Hope and the mom, and I don't remember her name, I guess it's Janet, are outside, and they're, you know, on a rooftop or something, and they have a van there, and they got all the high-tech equipment, and the Ant-Man, Scott, is going into the quantum realm to retrieve some quantum energy or something. I forget what he's going in for.
Quantum particles.
Yeah, some quantum healing energy to help out Ghost, to help her.
Yeah, they were going to help Ghost. That was kind of the promise that they made. So so he goes in, he's communicating with them, and all of a sudden the communication gets cut off. He's still in the quantum realm. We're like, what the fuck is going on? We're like, oh no, not again. He's, you know, someone's going to get stuck in here. And then they flash back outside of the quantum realm where the 3 characters were Hope, Janet, and
Hank.
And there's just ash floating in the air where those characters were. And you realize that, okay, the thing that, yeah, I guess we got to be careful, right? What we spoil here.
I think at this point it is such...
Spoilers for Avengers Infinity War Part 1 incoming. Right. Now's your chance to step away. Still here. Great. Go.
So now we find out that the thing that Thanos did near the end of Avengers Infinity War has happened to these 3 characters, and they are now gone. They're vaporized, just like half of the people and half of the beings on Earth when Thanos snapped his fingers and made all that happen. We've now lost 3 main characters. Yes.
I have an issue. If it's half of everybody in the multiverse or whatever, how did all 3 of them get snapped away?
It's not, it's half of the population. It's not half of the people in the shot. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I know, but like statistically speaking, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't think three people all standing together would get zapped away. Like,
there's probably a family of 5 somewhere where all of this happened, and all 5 of them just ended up being spared because they just all ended up on the tail side of the coin flip. You know, like statistically, like, you know, yeah, absolutely. Like statistically, you would expect something else, but you're dealing with a massive number of samples where it's statistically possible for like a city, like a small, like a building filled with like 100 like church parishioners or something like that, to all get zapped at the exact same time, and like then everyone think that it's maybe like a rapture or something like that. Like there's probably a lot of really cool stories happening within the universe of just kind of the way the coin flips happened.
So all the wasps get stung by the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yep.
It may not be that the effect was even, meaning there could be pockets of areas where more than 50% got affected, and pockets of area where, where less than 50, significantly less got affected, but the overall effect was taking out 50%. So we don't know that he was, whatever he did was an even effect over anyway. But yeah, it was kind of a shock to see that happen, because I thought that just something went crazy with the equipment, right? And we're like, oh fuck, something broke. And then when they flash back out and all you see, expecting to see the 3 characters, and you see the ash floating, that was kind of a gut punch.
Yeah. Well, we know he can get himself out of the quantum realm, right? Because he did it in the first movie. He can just like enlarge himself again and come out, I guess.
Is that what he does? I don't remember much of the first movie. Yeah, these movies are fun and they're light and they're enjoyable, but they're not necessarily memorable. Like, I don't remember how he got out of the quantum realm in the first movie at all.
Will, do you remember the exact circumstances of that?
Let's see. He went in. I believe didn't he have like I don't remember if it was his belt was he broke the little thing to go down low, and then he felt something, and then I don't remember if he repaired it or if he had another one. He did something after he broke his belt to come back out. I don't remember if it was if it was fixing the belt or if it was using one of the little devices.
Yeah, I don't remember. But we'll assume that he can probably do it, or he gets help and he'll get out. There's speculation that he's going to be a big part of the next Infinity War movie, or at least play some kind of role. And
I found it.
Okay,
here we go. So Scott used one of the blue discs that makes things big. It had shrunk with him as part of his suit and his belt, and he used that because his regulator was broken,
right?
And it zapped him back.
So yeah, I mean, the thing that's interesting is I don't know how readily he's going to be able to just pop back out, because we got to see a second stinger, which tells us that like the second stinger was like kind of a funny one, like very short, like it just cuts back over to the house and you see the ant still playing the drums, but there's this slow pan through the hallways, and you see the news is showing the distress of everything that's happening with Thanos, and you're seeing, so the implications of that final scene is that he got stuck wherever he was at, and it hasn't been able to, at least in a reasonable amount of time, been able to get out of it, and that ant that was programmed to act like him is still on like this continuous loop, like just being it's actually in that case it makes that one a little bit sad too, because he's stranded in this place, and this thing is like autonomously going through his routines. I'm sure he'll get back out. There's a lot of casting news that has me that I won't bring up here because it's it's
spoilery.
Spoils Infinity War 4, I guess, in a way. But that leads me to believe that there's some interesting things where he might have a role. Brad, I found out something amazing just now that I think would interest you. I was looking over the cast list just because, like, I was like, oh, well, who else is in this that we didn't talk about? There's a lot of funny people in this, Judy Greer and, of course, Bobby Cannavale. But I scrolled down a little bit further, and almost at the bottom of the cast list is Tom Sharpling, who is the voice of Greg on Steven Universe.
That's awesome.
His only acting credits are like Steven Universe and Adventure Time and doing voice work for Simpsons and the Fortnite and just all these things. I think this is his only live action role. And he was one of the SUV drivers for Walton Goggins' character. He had like some SUV drivers. He was one of them. I didn't recognize him. I didn't notice that. I kind of want to see a third.
Wow.
So that I'm for Steven Universe fans, Greg Universe is technically now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Steven, look out for that small car. It's going to get big.
Watch out, Stewball. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's
Oh
awesome.
goodness, that's awesome. Well, good catch. Scrolling through the cast list there.
Yeah,
Well,
all he wanted to do was see Ant-Man turn into a giant woman.
and be a comet.
Yeah.
Well, guys, does that about wrap us up for Ant-Man and the Wasp,
Wow.
or do we have more to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all liked this one. I don't think this was like going to be in any of our top 10 lists, but I think this all, was mostly fine for all of us, right?
Yeah,
I had a fun time with this one.
Yeah. Ant-Man and the Wasp, mostly fine. There you go.
It's the favorite. It's my favorite of the 26 Marvel movies that we got this year. So
Really? Oh, this year, right?
Over both Infinity War and
over
Black
Panther? Really?
Well, no, I'd say it's my second favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Gotcha.
hard. Like, it's my least favorite of the three that have come out this year, but the other two
Oh
are.
wait, I was counting Deadpool, so I guess that doesn't count, right?
Deadpool's not. It's just those three. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Whatever. Maybe I lump all superhero movies into the same category now.
Uh-huh.
That's me.
All right. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and switch gears a little bit then and talk about Skyscraper, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Neve Campbell, which it's always interesting to see her pop up in something. So we're going to talk about Skyscraper, spoiler-free, for probably 10 minutes or so. I don't know how much spoiler discussion we'll get out of this film, but we will have a spoiler section. So take all of that as needed for what you will. But here we go, our discussion of Skyscraper. All right, so Jim, I know you have a huge, giant, Maui-shaped soft spot for The Rock. Why don't you kick us off?
Dwayne Johnson.
Why don't you kick us off? I know you were pumped for Skyscraper. What's the basic premise of this film for anyone who hasn't seen it? And of course, we'll avoid spoilers for a while. And is this worth seeing in theaters, waiting for rental, or skipping entirely?
Yeah, so Skyscraper is a big action drama movie. The IMDb synopsis goes like this: a father goes to great lengths, and I would say also great heights, to save his family from a burning skyscraper. So basically what you have here, and I've seen a lot of people...
Real quick though, Jim, shame on IMDb. Because that was so much better. Like, just replacing that one word made that description so much better.
I know, right?
Shame on them. I'm sorry for interrupting, but just
I
like
added
that was
a word. I'm sorry.
No. You made it way better.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a movie that stars Dwayne Johnson. He is the star of this. This guy's everywhere now. He plays a character named Will Sawyer, who is he's a amputee. He's an ex like SWAT team member or something. I think he was on the police force, kind of like a hostage crisis officer. And he's now hired to audit, I think, the security of this huge new high-tech skyscraper in the middle of Hong Kong. Well, in Hong Kong Bay, I guess. That is, of course, the world's tallest building, the world's most technologically advanced building. It's pretty awesome. And his family is there visiting. He's there to make a presentation and on the, kind of the security check of the building, and things go wrong. And so we've got Dwayne Johnson in this one. Neve Campbell. What do we got? I don't know. Neve Campbell in this one. And then a whole bunch of other people that, I mean, some of them I kind of recognize, but it's really The Rock, Neve Campbell, and kind of everybody else in this movie. And man, I had fun with this movie. I expected to come into this movie, and I seriously expected to fall asleep in this movie, because I'm like, oh, great. This is going to be like 2 hours of Dwayne Johnson, like swinging off fire escapes and cranes and a building on fire. And in the end, maybe he saves the day, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But I fully expect to be let down by this movie, and I wasn't. I had a fun time, and I think it was the way this movie was executed. This was basically a big dumb disaster movie, and it didn't try too hard to hide the fact that that's what it was. And it you know, there's tech in this movie that maybe doesn't make sense. You scratch under the surface, and none of it, you know, really makes a lot of sense. But it's not a sci-fi movie. This is an action movie. We've talked about this before when we reviewed movies with Dwayne Johnson. The guy's got charisma. He's a great leading action hero. He plays that role again wonderfully here. I think this is like kind of like the perfect summer. Just go there, have fun. There's some scenes in here I think that are really great. I thought the editing, I thought the photography and special effects were all great. Sound design was great. There's a couple of scenes where I thought the sound design was fantastic, at least in the movie theater that I saw it in. But yeah, this is fun. I'd recommend that people see this movie on the big screen. It's a big action movie. It deserves to be seen on the big screen. Not going to be the most meaningful, emotional, or the best cinematic experience you've seen, but it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good that you say that, because my thing is like, going into this movie like what it's going to be. It's an action movie starring The Rock, right? So like it'd be like going, I don't know, into the original first Rambo movie expecting an Oscar film and being upset that like you didn't get that. Like, it's an action movie starring The Rock. I feel like it delivered on that promise. Like, we got that in spades. And this movie actually kind of reminded me a lot of what was the earthquake movie a couple years ago? San Andreas.
San Andreas.
Yeah, all the same movie.
Right, exactly. Like, big tall buildings, shit's falling apart, things are on fire, people are in trouble, and The Rock is kicking ass, taking names, and saving lives. I mean, as these kinds of movies go, I guess it's kind of run of the mill. What was interesting this time around, though, is that the Will Sawyer character is an amputee. And we kind of get a little bit of a setup for how that happened, and we see him kind of working around that. I do have some issues with how it's kind of a thing, and then well, we'll talk about that. But I don't know. I mean, I like this movie more than I thought I probably would. Like I said earlier, like I do like Neve Campbell a lot. Great to see her. The kids, pretentious kids are going to be pretentious, and they were also kind of forgettable. But I don't know. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and that's saying something, because normally when I see a movie when I'm like super ass tired, it affects my like movie going experience. I get super grumpy. I saw this and I was so sleepy. Oh my goodness, I was so sleepy. But I still liked it a lot. So it was fun. I got a couple things I want to talk about in spoilers, but I would definitely say go see this in theaters. Look, if you're looking for something that's like a fun spectacle that's not a Marvel movie right now, I think it's kind of hard to go wrong with this. Just, obviously temper your expectations a little bit. Will, how about you?
I didn't hate it.
What?
That's maybe it's not.
That's high praise.
A ton more positive than that, because this movie, you judge a movie based on how well it delivers the thing that it tries to deliver, and I think that this film gets portions of what it's trying to deliver right. I think it also ham-fists in a bunch of things that don't work, and those things stood out very, very apparently to me. This movie, when it works best, is about a man overcoming this disaster. And of course, he's a mountain of a man. He's not a normal man, but he is like, he's overcoming these crazy jumps and these crazy swings and these things falling and these things crashing. And that's what's exciting. And you do have this like pull for him, man trying to protect family. And you get that, even if the kid characters are very forgettable and needed something else. And even if the Neve Campbell character, they try to give her some stuff to do, but they don't kind of succeed on that. But there's some things that don't work for me. I think that it gets a little like, first of all, like the movie is not very quippy except for when it is, and when the movie is quippy, it doesn't do quippy well. Like there's a bunch of jokes about one everyday household item that like just did not go over super well with me. Like it really felt like someone in the writing room was just like super impressed with their own jokes so much, and they just tried to include it in the film wherever they could. I did not like there's a female villain who doesn't kind of match the tone of the rest of the movie very well. Like she just didn't, everything else felt like it existed in one world. And she felt more like she came out of a Marvel movie, actually. Like just kind of the way that she acted and kind of how over the top she was. And some of the stuff, like without saying what it is, some of the stuff in the climax just felt a little eye-rolly for me. This is a big fun movie, and I think you're going to have a good enough time. Do I think you should go out and see it in theaters? Probably not, but if you're going to see it at all, you might as well see it on the big screen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So we have 2 yeses and a probably
mine's a maybe. Like it's I don't feel strongly enough about this film to say yes or no, to be honest. Yeah. Like it is perfectly in that like that middle, like it is perfectly on the meh line, which is not a bad place to be for a blockbuster, to be honest.
I think what I found interesting about this movie, and not so much for some of the Marvel movies, is that in the action scenes, and there's a lot of them here, there's a lot of action set pieces, and this movie is basically a string of action set pieces all the way through. And I thought for the most part, all of them worked because, and I think for me, you know, being an engineer by you know my education and my career, there was a lot of stuff to think about with this huge building and how are they building this? How are they making the systems work? And there was some stuff that didn't pass the sniff test. I'll grant you right off the bat. There were some things I'm like, are you kidding me? It doesn't really work that way. But there were some things in here that were pretty cool, and especially in the action scenes when he had to try to figure out like how to get out of a particular bind, or he had to save somebody in a particular way. How was he going to do it? And you know, the way he figured it out was like, okay, that's kind of crazy what he did, but it was still fun to watch him do it and try to do it. And so I kind of dug that part of the movie. Whereas in a lot of other movies, you know, we just talked about Ant-Man and the Wasp, and that was fun because it had the growing and shrinking. It had kind of an edge to it, you know, something different other than just a bunch of characters kind of slugging it out or shooting it out. Does that make sense? I'm not sure I'm making sense. It just had something else to offer in the action scenes than just like a bunch of characters just like having a big battle or a big fight.
Sure. I think that's both the strength and a weakness here, because I think when this film really works best, it's playing off of the kind of the resourcefulness of this character. Like this movie is like an analog of like what this movie is like at its best is like when it's being Die Hard, right? Like, so when he's coming up with like creative solutions to things, that's cool. There are times when the creative solutions feel hyper realistic, and or feel way over the top, and I feel like I don't need this movie to be like, you know, like mathematically sound and like fully accurate because it's a big dumb one. But at the same time, I do hold it to slightly higher scrutiny for realism than say a superhero movie, because this isn't a person dealing
in the real world.
It is set in the real world. This is set ostensibly in our world, as opposed to a world where like, you know, gods and, you know, and
super
soldiers and all these things exist. Yeah. So I do expect like just a higher degree. And when it breaks that, I feel like it's sort of like cheating on its own premise, because when it does do the stunts and does do the things in a creative kind of MacGyverish type way, and it, you know, it's close enough to realism to like work for me, that shit's really cool. That's when I think it's at its best.
I could see that. Definitely. Well, I think we got more to talk about, but it's hard to do it without going into spoilers. So are we ready to make that jump? Are we good?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Like The Rock jumping off a crane toward a window. Are we ready to jump into spoiler territory? Sounds like we are. Spoilers for Skyscraper are indeed incoming. This is your chance to step away. Skip ahead with the time index. If you're listening not live, if you're listening live, mute us. Come on back in 10 minutes for plugs. But here we go. So we, in the lead up to this movie, we were all joking about the poster, right? Because you see Dwayne The Rock, he's going to jump off the crane toward the building, and the way it's situated, no matter how you map out potential angles, like he's going to miss the window. In the trailer, we see that he's going to like jump off. You're like, how the hell is that going to work? Did the physics play out, given that he leapt for the window and barely grabbed the ledge with his fingertips? Are we forgiving that a little bit?
I thought it was funny when, because everybody was talking about that. It was a kind of a meme, I think, on the internet.
Was
like how he's going to jump from the crane to the building. He's not going to make it. The math, Will, this gets back to your, is the math going to work out? All that stuff. And it was funny while it lasted. But then in the movie, what happens is that you don't see in this trailer part is he's got this crane thing and he swings the big hook right into the building. And you're like, okay, he's actually not going to jump. That was just in the trailer. He's actually going to zip line right over to the building on this crane thing. And Brad's like, I think you leaned over to me at one point. You said, oh, they're not going to do that. They're totally not going to do that.
Uh-huh.
And then the hook falls off the building and he's back to jumping into the window, which, it kind of worked out, but, and you knew it would. I mean, you knew he was going to make it.
Yeah, well, that would have been a very disastrous movie if, halfway through, it's just like, oh, splat.
He would have just fallen into the next, thing and grabbed onto the, you know what I mean? He fell several stories in a couple parts of this movie.
Would have been a really ballsy move? And I don't think they'll do this. I've only seen this happen once with the film, but if he hadn't made that jump and then the film switched over and then Nev Campbell ended up being the action hero the last half of the film, and the movie just kind of kept the trailers kind of kept that from us, I'd have been down for that. That would have been that would have been a really good change of expectation. Yeah, I forgive them. The jump was really weird, him hanging out with the fingers, but that wasn't the stuff that I had a problem with as much. That's the stuff where I can chalk up and say he made the jump. Cool, fine. It's it's an action movie. That's what people do. Yeah.
Something that's really funny, Will, just while we're on that jump thing and falling and stuff, there was a woman in the audience when we saw this movie.
That was awesome.
And there's this part where he's hanging on to the ledge or whatever, and then he slips and he falls. And you're looking down at him as he's falling. And this woman throws her popcorn in the air and she's like, oh,
she screamed. Yeah.
I this would be a hard movie if you had a fear of heights, because they do that down angle quite a few times, as is appropriate, with it. Yeah. And there's some other stunts that I think worked really well. There's this one where he's going around the building with he's kind of got the rope and he's using the tape to kind of help with
the duct tape hand.
The duct tape, which I thought that was actually a really good use of the duct tape, because I thought that they were going to do something dumb and have him suction
hanging off the duct. Yeah.
I was that would have been my fuck this movie moment, and it wasn't. It was just to help him with his grip, and that makes sense. That's why you wear rough gloves or things like that, because it helps with grip. That's what he was doing. Cool. Yeah. And it was things would fall and he had to make those jumps. All that worked really well. The thing that I didn't like as much, one, because it was very cliched, and two, because I don't think it was sort of fairly executed, and that's the Hall of Mirrors thing at the climax.
Oh God,
I fucking hated the Hall of.
You knew that was going to happen, Will. I mean, from the first time he was up there and the guy showed it to him, you're like, this is going to be where the climax of the movie happens.
Of course. But that scene lasted way too long, because he takes out all of the villains by every single one of them is I'm going to shoot over here. Oh, wait, no, the Rock's behind me. And that last villain, where the final, the thing is actually, I'm behind you or whatever. That was such a terrible line and such a bad way of getting rid of a villain, because it was the way that he got rid of all of the henchmen right before.
Right.
I feel like we were robbed of maybe a better showdown or maybe another part of the action set piece. So that was a scene where that felt like it was out of out of a different movie. Like just the way all that played out.
And the crazy thing is there's screens, right? So like we see some of them getting damaged when enemies are shooting. Why didn't the enemies just fucking like
take them all out,
machine gun, the mirrors and take them all out right away? Like that didn't make any sense, but like, I don't know. I kind of forgive some of that stuff, but for me, the most unrealistic thing in this whole movie was the whole turn it off and back on again. That'll fix the system in the building. Like, oh my God. And
that was so obnoxiously telegraphed too, because as soon as they do that at the very beginning of the movie, they say, this is the thing you're going to have to learn how to do, sweetie, is learn how to turn it off and turn it back on again. Now, let me go use this iPad to run this entire building. In that exact moment, like, oh, the final moment is someone turning it off and on again and doing like one of those little, like, look how clever I am.
No, you run off and be a good mommy for an hour and 15 minutes of this movie, and then come back and turn it off and back on again and save me. That's basically
and the best part of this whole thing is you've got this super sophisticated security setup. Things are so crazy locked down. Only one tablet in the universe can control it. Apparently, that tablet doesn't auto lock after 5 minutes, requiring it be unlocked again. So, that's fine.
Well, the guy they shot, I think, did at one point say he took that all out or something like that.
After they got the tablet. But here's the thing, like, unless you disable that, most modern day devices lock after a certain amount of time. And if this is like the only thing in the world that can control the security systems, and they went to the trouble of setting up Face ID with it,
only one
what
time,
I mean? Like,
only one time.
Like apparently you only have to initialize it once and you're good. But like then she's just able to like reboot it like real fast. Like doesn't take anything special. That's all it takes to subvert the security system. It just, I don't know.
This is one of those movies you could get a bunch of friends together and like watch a dumb action movie sometime in the next 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? You want to put on a dumb action movie. This is a fun movie to watch because you and I were trading barbs back together.
Oh yeah,
in the movie. Like there was one point where they give a character that famous line, which is in almost every like action suspense movie, and I know it was intentional. They said, "You can be assured." What did he say? He said,
"It's perfectly safe, I assure you."
It's perfectly safe, I assure you. How many times have you heard that in movies only to have it? Ridiculous. And I swear they put it in there. I swear they put it in this movie as kind of a gag. Like, you know it's going to happen. This building's going to fucking catch on fire because that's the whole premise of the movie. Oh, man.
Also with the Neve Campbell thing there at the end, like with her sort of turning it off and turning it back on again, like her big moment of heroism was very weird for her to be the one to figure that out. Especially when you have all of these like government agents who seem to be pretty technologically savvy, who are just like standing next to her, just going like, I don't know how to fucking do this. This is too much for me. And her background is as a military like combat medic. You could have done something so fucking good with that. Like, do we see it like? The one point where The Rock is like really injured, or Dwayne Johnson is really injured in this movie, he tends to his own wounds with duct tape.
He pulls a shard out of it.
Yeah. Imagine like if she had gotten to do some of the thing that she was good at in this movie, the thing that was part of her backstory. It was instead like the combat medic was just to show like this is why she was in love with The Rock, not like why she has agency of her own. Like that's a fixable thing in script. Like that's not a thing where you have to do a lot of reworking.
Her contribution initially was she picked out the spot where the other dudes were waiting for the villain, right? The kind of like the freight yard or whatever. That was like they're looking at a map and they're like, well, he can't land here and he can't land here. And he's like, oh, it's over right here. It's right here on the map. This is where they're going to be.
I'm a logistics expert who lives in the fucking city of which map I'm looking at.
Hong Kong.
Thank God this American just like she pointed up the map and knew more about it than we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she was good at the things that she shouldn't have been good at, and she wasn't good at the things that she should have been good at.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was. Go ahead, Brad.
No, I was going to change topics, so you go for it.
No, I was just going to say I thought the movie kind of handled all of that stuff in a pretty good way. I still don't think the movie like took itself too seriously. I think it didn't play it for laughs, but I think it kind of knew that, yeah, we're going to do this stupid thing and then we're just going to move on to the next thing. We're not going to like call too much attention to it. I want to say that, Will, do you remember watching Central Intelligence with The Rock and Kevin Hart? Do you remember that one?
I skipped it because I'm trying to avoid as many Kevin Hart movies as I can.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But that was actually one. It was a dumb comedy. It was a buddy cop comedy, I think. That I thought was pretty. It was written and directed by this same guy, which is interesting because that one was a comedy, and I thought it worked pretty well as a buddy comedy. It's kind of a character thing between the two, and I loved the Dwayne Johnson's character in that. There was some question about his sexuality too in that movie, right? But I really kind of dug that movie, and I'm not a fan of Kevin Hart that much. But I thought it's interesting that the guy can write a movie like that and then come back and write this big, dumb, like action disaster type movie. And guess what? His next movie is an art heist movie with guess who playing the lead role?
Dwayne Johnson.
You got it. Yeah. I was just looking that up today. So anyway, I just think, this guy's found a niche working with The Rock, probably making, I don't know how well this movie will do, but yeah, I thought it was enjoyable. And I always look forward to the next movie The Rock makes. I'm a unapologetic Dwayne Johnson fan.
Yeah. He's in a lot of, he is often the best thing in middling movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I mean,
sometimes he's the best thing in bad movies. Baywatch.
Yeah. Yeah. like I very rarely watch a movie with him and go like, he was not good in this. It's like, he's always good at doing what he does. It's just the material is not always great.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Brad, go ahead. We're going to change it.
Oh, I was just going to say it's interesting, that they went to the trouble of making the character an amputee in this movie. We see him put his leg on at the beginning, and then like it's not a thing anymore until he falls and gets caught on his leg. Like, for one thing, I think it's a super cool positive message that like, hey, even if you're an amputee, you can like run and jump and scale buildings and jump through fires and blah, 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 blah. But then like to have it come back just long enough to like be a thing when he falls and when he gets hit with his own leg, he puts it back on again and then he's back to being full action hero. I thought that was a little, I don't know. That was a little.
We needed it, Brad, to jam up the elevator doors. That's what we really needed it for, right? Because if those doors had closed, the whole ending would have been totally different. So he had to throw that. He had to throw that prosthetic leg into the elevator door to keep it from closing. That was the whole purpose. But yeah, it was interesting that they made that choice in the movie. They didn't show him they showed him putting the leg on and off a couple of times. And I think they showed one fight scene where he had his prosthetic leg had come off, right? And he was fighting a guy at the beginning of the movie, the first guy, right? His brother.
The dude that played Porn Stash on Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That was him.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Pablo Schreiber, yeah. And he actually like tears the leg off him and then beats him with it. And then
So there was first of all, I'm gonna say like I feel like they for me at least, they probably got the right amount of leg business in, only because I thought about this afterwards. Like, I think that if you're gonna go this angle, and I think it's a cool angle to go because it's like, hey, it's showing someone who's differently able being an action hero. That's cool. I felt like if they had him like the leg coming off and like him clubbing people with it, and he's using this, like if there was like a lot more of it, it almost might have felt like kind of too over, like using his disability as like a gimmick. But so it's like it's
little
hard to find.
exploitive.
It's hard to find exactly the middle line. Now, I think one thing that they didn't do well, and I don't know how they could have changed it, but I just have to judge by my audience's reaction. In that fight with Porn Stash there at the beginning, when the leg comes off, he does this thing where he does this like hop and then tackle. Yes. And as he's hopping, my audience erupted into laughter. Like it was just the funniest fucking thing seeing this guy hop on one leg.
It wasn't played for laughs, though.
It was not played for laughs, but I'm wondering if I don't know how they would do it differently, but I just judging by the reaction, like something they and I don't know if every audience was like this, but just like something probably didn't land the way that they expected it to, or maybe they planned to. So I don't, I don't know what they could have done differently, but just for me, like I remember going like, really guys, like this isn't.
Yeah, I thought it was actually kind of cool the way they showed
that's not a funny scene. That's not played to be like, look at this, like this one-legged dude hopping, haha. And yet that's what happened around me. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, something else that's interesting, when we started talking about this movie, when we got to spoilers, we had a bunch of people jump off, and now it looks like some of those people are coming back, probably expecting us to move on to plugs. So what do we say, guys? Shall we give them what they're coming back for, put a fork in this movie, and plug it up?
Let's give Zhao time to rebuild the pearl, so we can have the second movie.
We'll turn the segment off and then back on again.
That'll fix it. All right. Well, let's move on to some plugs. Hey, mine is really quick. We have a very special guest coming on the show next week. Bill Zanowitz from the Comic Book Bears podcast is joining us for the first non-comic book movie Bill has ever joined us for. And the film is actually what I want to plug, although plugging Bill, I guess, also is a fun thing. And that is Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again is coming out this weekend. I'm really excited for this one, guys. I'm super pumped. I love ABBA. I love Cher. I should have known at an early age what that meant. But, as bad as Pierce Brosnan's singing was in the first one, I'm really pumped and jazzed for Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. So get your gay friends together, get your ally friends, go in a huge group, and then come back next week and listen to our show as we review Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. Are you guys pumped for this movie?
I'm cautiously optimistic from this movie. I did like the first movie. I want to see how they do this without Meryl Streep, because I don't see her in the trailer. So I don't know how that's going to work. But we got Lily James is in this one. We got the three dads all back, right?
Yep.
Colin Firth and Pierce Brosnan, and I don't forget the other guy's name. But I'm kind of excited for it. I like the music. I'm sure we're probably going to get all the same songs we got in the first movie, because I think they covered all the popular ABBA songs in the first movie, so they're going to just recover them again here.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of like kind of personal investment to this movie just because of things in my life. The first movie was not a great movie, but a fun movie, and I think that's a great place for it to exist. I think that it was a lot of fun, even if it's kind of like got issues. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I think this one's going to double down on the fun, really.
Probably. Meryl Streep does have an acting credit in this film, according to IMDb.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
And she was briefly in the trailer. I don't know if you remember, but there's a scene of like her hugging her mom.
Okay.
So
all right,
we don't know. Maybe she dies at the beginning of the film, and everyone's coming in for her funeral or something. We don't know.
I wonder how she dies.
Oh yeah. At the beginning of the film, you see Ash coming down at the table where she sits on the patio, and then the ABBA music starts. Can you hear the drums for now?
It feels like there are only half as many songs in this movie.
Oh my God, you guys weren't privy to this at all in listener land, but like we were having this phenomenal discussion earlier with Bill, and we were talking about planning for next week's show. We're like, Thanos, goes to the island to find the last Infinity Stone, which is embedded in one of the sequin dresses of the dancers, and he's snapping along to the music, and everybody disappears. And we're like, oh my God, we need to make a Thanos Mamma Mia crossover movie. Yeah, that would be awesome. So, Will, when you were like, there's only one way, like, I knew exactly where you were going. I was like,
Yep.
All right. Well, Will, what have you got this week for plugs?
Yeah. So, honestly, I've been mostly playing Octopath Traveler the last few days on my Switch.
God, me too.
Which is so fucking good. So, that's not my plug. It's my reason why my actual plug is not a film and is insane.
Okay, but real quick, who did you start with?
I started with Alphen. Okay. Because his story is I want to go out and help people.
With the chipmunks there too?
And so because his story is I want to go out and help people, as I'm recruiting all of the other characters, it kind of feels like I'm doing his story even more.
Nice.
So, but yeah, it's such a good game. In fact, I was playing it up until we got ready to start, and I'm going to be playing it as soon as we get done. It's so damn good. But it's the reason why that and Scott's schedule kind of prevented us from seeing a movie that I think Jim's probably plugging, not to get too far ahead, but which we've got tickets to go see on Thursday because I wanted to see it with him. So what I am plugging is a Netflix special, actually. There is this comedian named Hannah Gadsby. She did a comedy special called Nanette, which is she's this Australian, very masculine presenting lesbian who does this comedy set that's sort of about her sexuality, but also how her sexuality has become sort of like the basis for her comedy, and why she's planning on quitting comedy because of the way that you have to abbreviate stories from kind of what they are to tell the joke. It's funny and it is remarkably powerful. Like when I think about comedy specials, a lot of times I'm like, oh, that was neat. That was fun. I watched this one, and at the end of it, it almost plays more like a TED Talk in places, just because it gets to some pretty heavy, serious places. I'm just sitting there mouth agape, just holy shit. This is one of the most impactful hours, or I guess 70 minutes of comedy that I've had the pleasure of seeing. So it's called Hannah Gadsby Nanette, and it's on Netflix, and it is an absolute must watch.
So it's on the Netflix?
It's on the Netflix.
On the list. I'll probably get to it at some point.
Maybe while I'm playing Octopath Traveler, Jim.
Or you can watch it with me if you want. Octopath Traveler. I didn't even hear of this game yet. You'll have to fill me in later.
Oh, I will. I started playing on my trip because after everybody goes to bed and I'm still up,
Brad, by the way, I know this isn't Octopath Traveler Bears podcast, but who did you start with?
I started with Cyrus. So I was actually plagued by indecision. I was like, oh my God, you're making this giant choice of this person who'll be in the party the whole time right off the gate. So I bought the game and didn't play it for 5 days because I'm like, I don't know what to do. But there was a really awesome thread on Reddit where they did a survey of who everybody chose first and why. And it was just what I needed. There were no spoilers, but I learned about the different characters. And in the end, for me, it was Cyrus's ability to tell an enemy's weakness. Yeah. And I've also always been drawn to scholarly characters. Jim and I are watching Stargate SG-1, and Jim hates the character of Daniel Jackson, who was played by what's his name? Spade in the movie, and then another actor, but he's one of my favorite characters on that show, and Cyrus reminds me a lot of him. So I dig it. I'm enjoying it so far. But
I'm gonna send you some Facebook messages afterwards. I've got some Octopath Traveler talk to do, just because it's so much fun.
Yes. To talk about. Oh my gosh, we got to geek out over it. But Jim, you got a plug. You have very patiently waited through our Octopath talk. What is your plug for this week, babe?
My plug is a movie. I don't know if you picked the right movie or not, because did see a couple of movies over more than a couple of movies over the weekend. The one I want to plug is a movie called Leave No Trace.
Tickets on Thursday.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're getting to see it. I was shocked as hell that this movie showed up at a major like Cinemark in our area, and I'm like, what? This is at a Cinemark? I got to go see it. So I saw the buzz that it was getting. I love Ben Foster. We loved him in Hell and High Water, if you guys remember that. I think he's a great actor. I remember him a long time ago. He was in Carnival, I think it was an HBO show that I really liked. Also stars this young actor named Thomasin McKenzie, and she plays Ben Foster's daughter in this movie. She's like 13, 14 years old, and they're living basically homeless in this movie. It's almost like they're camping, but they're homeless, living in a park in the middle of like, I don't know, Oregon or something near Portland, maybe. And he's a struggling veteran from one of the recent wars. Has his daughter. There's no real mention about the mother, but they're struggling to get by, and it's about their relationship. This movie reminds me of kind of a mashup between like the Florida Project and Wild, where Wild, because it's a lot of it takes place. They're kind of living in the woods and they're trying to make a life of it, and the Florida Project, because it's about people who are on the very fringe of society. They're homeless, mainly by choices that they make. The dad doesn't want to really integrate into society because he's got some emotional issues. Fantastic character study about these two characters, about relationships, about people living on the edge of society. It's a slow movie. It's a drama. Not a lot of action is going to happen, but the acting here is phenomenal, especially by this young girl, Thomasin McKenzie. Check it out. It's called, if it's in your area, it's called Leave No Trace.
All right. Awesome. Well, I think that wraps us up for this week. We'll be back next week with Mamma Mia. Here we go again with special guest Bill Zanowitz of the Comic Book Bears podcast. So be sure to get your Mamma Mia on this weekend and join us for what promises to be a very, very fun show, I'm sure. Guys, real quick, for anyone that wants to chat in between shows, Jim, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at JJP Out West, all one word, JJP Out West. That's where I tweet sometimes, and mostly just retweets. But you can also find me on Facebook under my name, Jim Pugliafico.
All right. Awesome. And Will, how about you?
Yeah, look for me on Twitter. I'm at Whatever Cove. Look for me on Facebook. I'm William Lindis. Just send me a message first so I know that you found me through the show. Also, look for me on Letterboxd. It's a site where I and many other users log and review films. It's completely user-ran and list generated by all the different people in your friends list. So just look for William Lindis on there, and I'd love to see what you're watching.
All right, awesome. And you can find me on Twitter at iBradPro. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it right there on your screen. Also, feel free to hit me up on Facebook if you like. Brad Harris, I'm the one that likely has Chub Chaser Bear friends in common with you. Guys, this was episode 288 of the Movie Bears podcast. We are inching ever forward closer to our 300th episode, which we're probably going to hit kind of around the holiday season. Maybe
like October-ish, right?
Yeah, somewhere around there. So if you have any cool ideas, something that might be fun to do, feel free to let us know what you're thinking. A review of 300 was brought up, which could work because hot, hunky dudes running around in loincloths is a great way.
300 in the title.
But also, I just wanted to remind you guys. So here's the thing. If you're listening through iTunes, as great as iTunes is, iTunes only gives you the most recent 100 episodes. You're missing 188 episodes you may not have listened to yet. You may want to go back and check out our back catalog. So you can do that if you go to our website. We've got links back to our old episodes. Also, you can just go to YouTube, search for Movie Bears Podcast, and you can access a ton of those old episodes. Also just on video. You don't have to watch the video. You can just hit play and have it in the background or something if you want. But hey, why not watch the video? You know, if you want to experience some fun visuals. Sometimes we show pictures of hot hunky bear dudes. So, you know, that could be worthwhile for you.
How we looked 5 years ago. Whatever it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh my God, how crazy is it going to be, guys, in like 10 years if we go back and like look at some of our first episods on YouTube? I bet.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like, just like, what was I? Yeah.
I'll be like, I had hair back then.
You know? I'm not going to be able to say
that. All right, everybody. Well, we love you all. We will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.